class is about creation. What a law does makes it a law. Went over the first class, which was the introductory class. We went into how we met Father, how Father did things in harmony with the law, how we started seeing the man, but we didn't know the law, so we didn't know whether he was doing in harmony or what. But he touched us in a way that caused us to see that, well, he had something. And then when we learned what the something was, we learned that it was the laws and principles of creation. What a law does makes it a law. Right? Yes, sir. Do everybody understand that concept before I go on? Do you understand that, Brother? Yes, sir. What a law does makes it a law. When he does something, okay, let me do it this way. The essence of everything that you see is what? Thought. Right, thought. What is thought? Energy directed. Energy directed. Right. All right. What is the mental? The gathering of intelligence. You know, these people all around the country, new dreams will be making y'all look real bad. The mental is the gathering of intelligence. And the physical bears witness to the what? To the thought. So what's always first? The thought, the spiritual, the unseen, the idea that gives things direction and purpose. That's always first. Now, thought is energy directed. When you have a thought, it goes, and what we're really going to get into is positive and negative. I had a situation that happened to me, then I was able to see the profoundness of what we learned, you know, in relationship to positive and negative. But, however, the thought, when you have a thought, you say, well, I am going to dispel darkness. That's the thought. It gives you direction and purpose. You're able to direct your motion based on the thought. If you don't have no direction, you just nothing. You're just walking in the street. You ain't going nowhere. But if you say, I'm going to the store, then you got a direction and purpose in which you can direct your motion to. Is that right? Yes, sir. But without the thought that gives you direction and purpose, you just walking. You walking. Man, why you out here? I don't know. What's the why? It's the spiritual. It's the idea. Why is the spiritual? It's the thought. How is the mental? And what it produces is the physical. So when you have thought, the idea, if you ask yourself, well, why? Well, let's go into the example. I am going to dispel darkness. That's the thought. It gives me direction. Now, how am I going to do it? The thought is why I'm doing it. Why? I'm going to dispel darkness. The thought is now, well, how am I going to do it? That's the mental. So we got to gather the intelligence to produce what the thought directed. The direction of energy said, I'm going to dispel darkness. The mental is the gathering of intelligence of how I'm going to do it. So then I go out and everything, gather the intelligence, get the wax, get the this, get the that, and I produce a candle, right? But the candle, if you look at the candle and I say, now, why was this made? You can't say, well, you know, that was made so we can make communications between here and Saturday. No, sir. No, sir. Well, that was made for us to cook food. No, sir. That's not the purpose behind it. That's not the idea behind it. The idea behind it is to dispel darkness. So everything that we do, you have to do it according to the purpose. According to the purpose or the idea of it. So when I go to the TV, I don't go to the TV trying to pop no popcorn on top of it. Because the purpose for which the TV is made is to receive these unseen waves and then to generate a picture and some sound for it, right? Right. Well, so the idea behind the TV is not that same idea behind the microwave, right? So you can look at what's physical, and the physical will bear witness to something in the unseen, the idea, right? Okay, now, remember now we got positive and negative. And we got physical evidence that there's a force called negative that takes the ideas or the positive back to nothing. Right? One of them is an angel. If you have an anus, that means you did something that's wrong. That means your body is designed in a way to eliminate waste. And if you wasteful, Allah is not wasteful. So what causes the creation to be wasteful? Negative. If everything is done right and exact, there is no waste. Is that right? Now, so this is what happened. Brother Secretary, in the beginning, hold on, let me go through the creation. In the beginning, Allah created himself in total triple darkness. Total triple darkness is the actions of spiritual, mental, and physical. It was the actions of thought, it was the actions of the mental, the gathering of intelligence, and it was the actions of the physical, which bears witness to the thought. There were none of these. There was not. There won't none of these. There wasn't any of these. I said, Brother Derek. It didn't exist. It was total triple darkness. The actions of this. Now, after being that way for so long, it was space matter. It was matter, and it was in motion. We're going to go into that. How we can prove that. It was matter. The space itself produced matter. It was in motion. There was energy. Energy is the force behind motion. Now, if we got matter, which we did, and we got energy, which is the force behind motion, but guess what? We didn't have anything. We didn't have the essence of things, thoughts. We didn't have the direction of energy. We didn't have the gathering of intelligence. And we didn't have what bears witness to it, the physical. Didn't have it. It was nothing. Even the air, even the dust, or the material that's in space is nothing because it didn't have no direction nor purpose. Allah had created himself. Does everybody understand that? Who don't understand that? Who needs it? Everybody understand that? Great, be too much. Oh, yes, sir. Yes, sir. Okay. Now, the Caucasian saw the beautiful folk. Now, this is very important now, and this is the reason why I'm going over this. The reason why I'm going over this, because we have to have a foundation before I actually go into the subject matter of the class. So all I'm doing now is giving the foundation. Everybody got to know what the spiritual is, or thought. Everybody got to know what the mental is, which is the gathering of intelligence. And you got to know what it produces with the physical. And you got to know what the definition of nothing means. Nothing. In the beginning, there was nothing. If Allah created himself, that means there had to be a time before Allah. Is that right? Right. Then what was it? It was nothing. Now, it was nothing. What made it nothing? It had no way to bear witness to itself. It had no way to show no type of intelligence. It had no way to generate or produce anything in and of itself. It was nothing. Just like the black man, the nothing, the Negro in North America. Don't have no direction, no purpose, no farmlands, no factories, no schools. Don't have no idea that produce anything in and of himself as a people. We might have a few of us, but just a few. But not as a people. We're nothings. Or we were nothings until Allah came to us. Now, let's show this in a physical way. Now, if I had judged, this is not the way the creation happened and everything. So take that out your mind. But this is an example that you have to follow the idea of the example. You got to follow the why of it or the principles that's being expressed. The idea that's being expressed. The dust that you see in the air is nothing. You can't smoke it, drink it, eat it. It's nothing. It don't have no direction, no purpose. It's dust. But what if you said in your mind, you had a thought, now I'm going to make something that will refract light, like a diamond, that, you know, when I shine these lights in there, the light can bounce off and it'll bounce in there, because I'm going to do something with this later on in my creation, right? But the diamond don't exist. So the diamond don't exist, so you have to create it from nothing. Something that don't have no direction and purpose. But the diamond got a purpose to refract light, right? Does dust have a purpose? No, sir. Dust don't have no purpose. So you take nothing, you give it direction and purpose. I'm going to make a dime or something that will refract light. I'm going to make something from nothing. I'm going to make something from that which has no direction, no purpose, and don't have no way to bear witness to itself. It's nothing. That's what nothing means. Nothing means that it don't have no way to bear witness to itself. It's nothing. In other words, if we was truly the God of the universe, right, and thought is unseen, then we got the gathering of intelligence, then we got the physical. Wouldn't we have a nation by now? Not wouldn't we have a nation by now, but shouldn't we have a nation? Shouldn't we have something physical that bear witness that we're something? Right? You know, you ever seen a person that you know, they're real prosperous in this Caucasian idea? Anybody, the Caucasian himself. He got direction and purpose. He's in harmony with his idea. He's manifesting, and he's kicking your butt every day. While he's doing it, and he enjoys it. He's the God of unrighteousness. But in order to see, if you're going to see wrong, first you got to see what? You got to see right. And what's right is what Allah does. What Allah does makes it a law. How he separated himself, the laws that he put into motion. That's what's right. That's the mathematics. That's what's right. I'm going to get into that in a few seconds. Now, it's dust. You got nothing. They don't have no direction and purpose. You take it, put it under tremendous heat, put some chemical changes in it, right? Put it under tremendous pressure, and you produce something that has a direction and a purpose, right? But you made it from what? Nothing. Something that didn't have no direction, no purpose. Now, then you got to ask yourself, well, why do you have to do things that way? Make something from nothing. Because remember, what Allah does first, what? Makes it a law. So in the beginning, it was nothing. What made it nothing, it had no direction, no purpose. Allah self-created himself in this total triple darkness, the actions of spiritual, mental, and physical. Since he did that, he is that in his fullness. He did that. He's the unseen. Allah. Now, this is how he did it. And we got to put this in a way that we can relate this to ourselves. When you see the relationship in it, then you can start coming alive. You can see the relationship in how Allah does things and how you should think. That's why it ain't no guesses. It ain't no maybes. It ain't no ifs. It's absolute answers. 1 + 1 is 2. It's not. Well, it's 2, however. It ain't no flexibility in what's set. The only way you can get into flexibility is after you establish what's set, which is the law. We're going to get into that. And once you establish what's set, then you can go into flexibility. And if I don't remember this, remind me to go into this sister that got a B on her report card. So we can go into what's the difference between what's set and flexibility. So we can go over, so don't let me do that. Now, did you get it, bro? Yeah. Right. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Energy. Everything that you see is energy. The brother asked me, are you saying that there was matter before Allah? Yes, sir. We're going to get into it in a minute. There was energy. What is this? The table. Is it not energy? Is it vibrating? Anybody know? Let me say it. The table is actually vibrating. The very molecules or atoms that construct the table is vibrating. But it's vibrating at such a low rate of speed that to you it's visible. But it's still in motion. Every molecule in this table is vibrating. Is that right, Brother Ernest? Right. It's energy. It's just another form of energy. Energy is the force behind motion. This force behind motion, this table is in motion. Energy. So much so, if you got coal, you can burn it and produce a different type of energy. If you got coal, okay, and you need to heat, you can produce a friction, which will produce fire which will catch a hold of this table and produce heat. Energy, right? Isn't that energy? But it's a different form of energy. So the table turns from one form of energy to another. We got proof of that? Yes. Let's look at water. Is not water energy? Can it be a solid, a liquid, and a gas? Three different forms of energy, but it's the same thing. But it takes an outside force to change. All right. So everything that you see is the manifestation of energy. It's energy. In the beginning, when we first started the FOI class, the Father taught us this way. In the beginning, there was energy. Energy with intelligence. And the energy began to direct the matter to produce what it is that it wanted, or the energy wanted, or the thought directed. That's the way we used to say it. But now we say it this way, more right and exact. That was when we was babies. We used to say, now we say, hey, in the beginning there was nothing. And what made it, what made it nothing is that it had no direction, no purpose. And Allah separated himself in a total triple darkness. But then we say it this way. In the beginning there was nothing. And what made it nothing, it had no direction and purpose. And after being that way for so long, and we don't know how long because we had no way to calculate it, Allah hadn't even separated himself that yet. So after being that way for so long, it produced a want. A want. W-A-N-T. In this language, that's the best I can do. It produced a want. The want produced a thought. The want didn't produce no thought. Let me back that up. The want allowed for, the want produced the condition which allowed the thought to manifest itself. It didn't produce a thought. A want is still nothing. You can say, man, I want something, but you don't know what it is. It don't have no direction and purpose yet. But it's still nothing. If it ain't got no direction and purpose, what is it? Nothing. But you got to have a want before you have a thought. Then you say, man, I want to do something. And then you think, then you put in, I'll be a programmer. But the want didn't produce that. The want said, I just want a change. I want something. But the want don't produce, I'm going to be a programmer. You can't show no facts to say that the want produced it. It just allowed for the condition for the thought to manifest itself by your wanting a change. You see? Why do you think that way? Why does your brain operate that way? Because Allah created the creation that way. He made himself that way. Since he did it, it made it a law. So you can't break it. You cannot have or produce anything physical without having a thought. You got to have a thought. How you going to produce a pair of screwdrivers without having a thought first? I'm going to produce some screwdrivers so I can turn this screw. How are you going to produce it without having a thought first? If you don't have no thought, you say, man, I want to do something. And the screw will sit there forever and ever. Until the thought gives you direction and purpose. So you got to have a thought before you make anything physical. And if that's the case, which it is, why do we think that way? Because Allah did it first. And when he did it, it made it a law. In the beginning, there was nothing. What made it nothing, it had no direction, no purpose. After being that way for so long, 100% dissatisfaction produced the want. The want produced the thought. The thought began to gather the 10,000 fractions into nothing to produce the one, Allah. This is the unseen one, not no seen one. This ain't no physical one. It's unseen. It's thought. And another way of saying that is, now we're in creation now. This is creation. But what we're doing is show how the creation relates to the way we think. And why in your thinking, you always supposed to think as creation. The way Allah does things, as law, that which is set. You see? So if you're going to get right on the right road, you got to think mathematically. We'll get into this. Now, after being that way for so long, it produced the want. The want produced the thought. The thought began to gather 10,000 fractions. What are 10,000 fractions? These are thoughts. These are thoughts. I heard thoughts, facts. These are 10,000 thoughts, attributes, thoughts. These are 10,000 thoughts. But where did thoughts come from? Allah produced them. Then he gathered. Why did he have to gather 10,000? Yes, sir. Brother said that's how many took to produce the one. That's right too. But it's something else to it too. But I don't want to go into that right now. But that's right. That's how many it took. Yes, sir. Well, let's right. He produced the fraction and then gathered. Where would he get another thought if he didn't produce it? If before him there was no thought? Yes, sir. Well, let's why did it do 10,000 thoughts? We're saying the person, why did it do 10,000 thoughts? Why 10,000 thoughts? I said I won't go into that, but y'all gonna make me go into it, right? I got it. Go ahead. It's complete. All the thoughts complete together. Just a second. All right. Let me get to it. I just need to do it. All right. This is what happened. You know, when you have numbers, right? Numbers represent. See, we getting off the class, man. That's why I'm going to go on it. It's fine. We got to clear it up since I said it, right? All right. Numbers represent ideas. Is that right? All right. 0 represents what? Nothing. What does 1 represent? Independent, right? But independent, when you think what 1 really represents, what 1 represents is Allah separating himself, gathering the intelligence to produce 1, right? So it's a whole idea behind from 0 to 1, which is 10,000 fractions. Now, what's these 10,000 fractions? They're thoughts. But why is it 10,000 fractions? Why is it so many ideas behind 1? Why come there's so many zeros behind 1? Let's say if you do something, anytime you add a 0, you increasing it, right? Right? You increase it, right? So let's say on the first 0, so we won't get too tied up. Let's make it real simple. Let's say on the first 0, you can recognize things by somebody telling you something. You know, say, man, you look good today. Yeah. I mean, man, let's say use a mechanic with a car. Let's say first, you know, let's say when you operating at 10, yes, sir. When you operate at 0, or the 0 and the 1, which is 10, when you operate there, you have to have a manual with it. This is just an example. You have to have a manual. You got to go with it. You got to follow it. But let's say when you add another 0, another value place, which increases it, now you don't need a manual. You can do it on your own. And now let's say that when you add another place to it, instead of doing it on your own, hey, you can do it with the direction of energy. You don't even got to touch it. You see? And let's say when you add another 0, now you ain't got to touch it. You ain't got to do it because it's obsolete. You're into something else. You see? It's just showing. Did everybody understand that? So when you add another 0, it's not when you have 10, right? If I gave you $10, what would be better? If I gave you a 1 with 1 0 or 1 with 4 zeros, right? All right. Which 10,000, right? That means these 4 zeros have increased what it is that the 1 represents. You see? Yes, sir. It increased it by 4 spaces, right? That's why he did it. And then that caused him to be complete. We can go into it some more, but I don't want to go into that right now. I don't want to take it out the classes. Well, let's helpers. Yes, sir. It's 10,000 angels. Yes, sir. You know, it's 10,000 angels. It's 10,000 people waiting on Solomon. Without you would say something. This is without the 1. Right. Without the 1, which is Father, they're nothing. Right. All these other value spaces is nothing. Without the 1. So the 1 had to self-create itself. Allah had to come. Self-create himself. And without the 1, they'll forget the 0, right? Okay. You have to have something to increase. You just can't increase 0. 0 is 0. So you have nothing, but now you got to produce something which can be increased. You see? I don't want to go too much into the science part, you know. But the only thing it's saying is the reason we had to have 10,000 because you had to increase. You see? And that's what zeros represent. And they hold these certain value places to represent this increase. Right? We can get into science later. Now, this is the situation that happened with me. Everybody understand before we go? Yes, sir. All right. Now, everybody know Brother Secretary. And Brother Secretary has been put with us in the Secretary Department. Secretarial, he got me for that saying that one time. His Secretarial Department. Now, in the Secretarial Department, Brother Secretary was put with me, right? For him to learn this mathematical thinking so he could come alive. And the best place to do it is the Secretary's Department, right? For a person like him, because he's a thinker, I'm a thinker, you know, she's a thinker too. You know, so the best place to put these thinkers is a place where in the secretarial department, the carrier of that which is set. And what's set? It is not the law. You see, the laws and principles of creation. Now, so here we have the secretary, or another secretary, a carrier of that which is set, put with another secretary, right? But why is the secretary department a good place to develop this mathematical thinking or this factual thinking? You got to be factual. You got to carry in your mind that which is set. You got to be the keeper of deeds and know facts and all, you know. The teller of secrets. Oh, that's the keeper of secrets. That's how they said it in the first. But the secretary, this person got to know the law. He got to know that which is set. So then, this is very, very important. Very important, more so than anything else. You have to go into motion in order for you to learn. You can't have knowledge, sit on it, and not go into motion, because the motion itself, mere thought counts for nothing. So if you got mere thought, you just got thought, but never you gathering all the intelligence that you want. But if you never put no will behind it, no force behind your thought, by the way, that's what will means. The force behind thought. So when you put that will behind it, you actually make it come alive, what you have in the unseen. You have a force behind your thought, your direction and purpose. Okay, now, so then the secretary come with me, but the thing is, he is to free me. Not free me, the brother don't free me, but he's to take the post that I have, or the duties, or some of the duties that I have, since I learned how to do this, I learned how to do that. I was in motion, actually producing a secretary department. I was the one to put this together. I was the one to put that together. I was the one to put all the forms together. I was the one to put the packages together. I was the one to type it. Ain't that right, brother? That's right. I was the one that did all that. So I put all this into motion, and the ideas and everything that how the secretary department worked, I put it into motion. Right? But now, guess what? Another man got to come, and another man got to put in motion or deal with something that's already in motion. Did y'all catch it? The creation. That which was already in motion. When the lockstep created himself, he had to give direction and purpose to what was already in motion. Got it? All right, now I'm showing you now, according to creation, how the motion in the secretary's department is developing this mathematical thinking if you know the laws and principles of creation. And you got somebody that know the relationship between how you should think, how the law is, and what it's supposed to produce. Right? If you can't get it, just keep the tape. This ain't about really the secretary department. We got to follow the law. You got to be able to look at the law. The law saying in the beginning there was nothing, and what made it nothing, it had no direction and purpose. Well, what you call nothing, Brother Jane? You know, with states matter, so how can you say there's nothing? Well, it had no direction and purpose, Brother Hermione. It had energy, which is the force behind motion. It was in motion, but it had no direction or purpose. And then the lockstep created himself, gave direction and purpose, but that which didn't have no direction or purpose. Right? Okay. So here is the secretary that comes in and has to put something that's already in motion. He got to put in motion his law, or what he think his law is, right? But then he come, and I wait a week. Secretary, you got to do this and so on, this and so on, this. I wait another week. Secretary, you got to do this and so on. I wait another week. Uh-oh. Well, the secretary ain't going to be able to put in motion nothing. Because at the same time, you have to develop the laws and principles of creation. I've designed this department in a mathematical way. We'll get into that in a second. This department is designed in a mathematical way. I see the mathematics of it. So, however, I know that it can be improved. However, I was not to improve it. Another one gonna have to come and improve the universe. Anybody catch that?
Yes, sir.
Did you catch that, Brother Kirk?
I got some points.
Okay. Now, in other words, for anybody that didn't get it, the universe, the messenger said that the universe is, what is it, oblong? It's oblong. That's in the theology of time. So, and it's not perfect. It's oblong. Yes, sir? Oblong shape. It means it's like an egg shape, or oval shape. So, yes, sir?
So, anything like you say, nothing nature is not perfect, but nothing is perfect, but it's on a course of perfection. Right? You know, keep spinning and rotating, moving. Whatever. Another one come on the scene, improves on. Also, I've been go forward, it's already said, like you're saying, like different ones come to improve it, make it better, better and better. Till the day, like perfection. Say, is that what you're saying? It's like keep working and moving and spinning.
No, sir. Not because of it moving and spinning.
Yes, sir.
What the brother's asking is it because of this moving and spinning, and then somebody else come, you know, like another man come and he do his part and everything to make it perfect, and then another man come and he do his part to make it perfect, and then another God come and he do his part to make it perfect. No. In theory, but not that way. Remember where all these gods came from. They came from one God. Is that right?
Right.
So who's really doing it? The one God. Alright. Now the messenger said there was a new God, right?
Yes, sir.
Who had the same idea as the original God, right?
Yes, sir.
To create something new. Is that right?
Yes, sir.
Alright. But he's not the same God as the God in the beginning that created this, right? Okay. That's because the God that came in the beginning, when he self-created himself, man, we never got into creation. Let me go into the story. When God first created himself, there was a force that came with him in creation called negative. So he himself, as he developed himself, he could not figure a way to rid himself of that which was in motion when he was already here. I'm getting close to it. Did y'all catch that? Alright, let's try it again. Allah self-created himself, the original Allah self-created himself in total triple darkness, the absence of spiritual mental ability. Right?
Yes, sir.
However, when he self-created himself in this total triple darkness, there was a reaction to his motion. When he made a positive motion, there was a reaction to his motion called what? Negative. Right? Negative never manifests itself until something positive goes into motion. Is that right?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So negative is always secondly or always a reaction. Is that right? Y'all remember this? Yes, sir. Negative got started because positive went into motion. And when positive went into motion, negative was a reaction to the motion. It's just like we sitting here in the this is deep, y'all. This is deep. This hold on, check this out now. Alright, it's just like you sitting in your car. We sitting on the interstate in Brother Secretary car. Right? Because the water hose bust. Right? So we sitting in the car, so we patch the water hose up. Brother Secretary puts the car out of neutral, takes the car out of park, put it in neutral, which is negative. Neutral. No direction, no purpose. Can't drive. It's neutral. It can't direct no energy. It's neutral. Then he puts it into drive, right? Pushes on the gas. Soon as he go into motion, there's a reaction that takes place around the car to try to bring him to a standstill. It's a reaction, but the reaction don't happen until he go into motion. Right? It's just like you can hold your hand like this, nothing happens, but do it like this and watch the air go. It's a reaction to your motion. You see? If we took smoke and just had smoke here, just floating in the air, and I took my hand and went through the smoke real fast, you would see a reaction to my motion of moving my hand through the air. Well, really, just because it's reacting, it's a resistance against my hand or friction against my hand to bring my hand back to a standstill, to stop it. So when Brother Secretary get up, Brother Secretary, rather, try that shit, you know. When Brother Secretary Reggie get in the car, push on the gas, traveling at high rates of speed, right? Traveling at high rates of speed, guess what? There's a force that builds up around his car to try to bring him to a standstill. Then he take the car, put it in neutral or negative, take his foot off the gas and let it coast. And guess what happens? This force will bring him back to a standstill. Then he'll stop. That's just one example. But in electronics, you got the positive and the negative. And don't negative ground things out. What do ground out mean? It means to stop it, right? It cut a short in it. The positive flows forever. But then you touch something that's ground or negative, and it cut a short in what? Positive. Right? But negative itself, you can't do nothing until positive goes into motion. Right? Now, who had any questions? Brother Swan, we got to keep it stable. Go ahead.
No, I know it was a question. And so, Dean asked you how negative you start. You said, it got started after positive emotion.
Right.
Okay, so in essence, they negative doing nothing.
Right.
When something goes.
So you wanted to make a statement.
Yeah, the statement.
Yes, sir. In other words, what Brother Jamal said, in the beginning there was nothing. And it had no direction nor purpose. Well, what's the purpose behind negative if it's not to stop positive? Right? So, sir, now this brother had a question for us. In other words, negative had no direction, and nothing has no direction, no purpose, right? Right. But then when positive goes into motion, then it turns from nothing to a force called negative to try to stop the positive, to bring it back to as it was in the beginning. Nothing. But nothing has no power over something, over positive. That's why this black man can't get nothing going. He ain't got no thoughts that can generate nothing until Elijah came. And who taught the messenger? Who taught the Honorable Elijah Muhammad? Allah in person, in the person of Master Farad Muhammad. This entity that entered into this body of knowledge and intelligence, that had the idea of perfection, this new God, this entity, this mass of completed ideas that entered into Master Farad Muhammad, who was a master, was made a master. We don't have to go through that. Maybe somebody else might have to go to. Now, yes, sir, brother. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. The space itself produced, the brother asked me, you got to speak up so that you can be heard on the tape. The space itself produced matter. The space itself produced matter. It produced the energy. What is energy? What is energy? Is that the table energy? Is that everything you see manifestations of energy or of this direction and purpose of this thought, energy directed? Right? Motion? Hell, you got me that time. Brother want to know what's the meaning of motion. We ain't gonna come in with no pseudo sign. You got to give a lot of God knowledge. And this is a class. This is a class that we really not. Now, usually in FOI class, we would stop there, going and start proving it based on facts or based on the mathematical formulas that we already have. But we're not gonna do that in this class. This is another class. I don't know the definition of motion. Energy is the force behind motion. Anything that stands still is not in motion. Is that right? Anything that stands, the brother just said, nothing stands still. In other words, nothing, no thing stands still, meaning everything is in motion, right? Right. That's a lot. Everything is in motion. You can prove that everything is in motion. Nothing just stands still. Nothing. Nothing, nothing, no thing stands still. In the beginning, there was nothing. No thing stands still. Nothing don't stand still. Nothing. It's in motion. Everything is in motion. Everything, 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 everything. The space itself produces the energy. But Allah came and gave it direction and purpose. If it had no direction and purpose, it's still nothing. You still part of a net. How can it be matter, but it be nothing? You still part of the definition of nothing, because the way this Caucasian taught us, nothing means nothing, right? It ain't no matter. It ain't no nothing. It ain't nothing. Your mind can't even imagine nothing, right? Okay, now I don't want to stop the class just for that one thing, but I'm going to do it one more time. Just to see if I can generate some other type of thing about nothing. If I had a deck of cards, playing cards, and I took the cards and threw them on the floor, just threw them on the floor, and I said, what is that? You'll say, man, it's a deck of cards that you threw on the floor, right? It don't bear witness to nothing. It's just a deck of cards that you threw on the floor. It's nothing. But what if I said in my mind, I'm going to build a house out of a deck of cards? Then I gather the intelligence of how I was going to do it. Then I submit to the process, the mathematical formula that I came up in my mind. I put my will out, which is the force behind my thought. I start placing the cards up, placing the cards up, placing the cards up. I have a little garage on this side. And I say, Hermias, what is this? And you say, that's a house. You see? But in the beginning, it was nothing until direction and purpose came to it. The direction of image, that which was nothing. You see? Okay. Now, yes, sir.
In the energy with direction in that movie.
No, energy directed is thought. Yes, thought is in motion. Energy is the force behind motion. It's the force behind the movement. It got to be something that moves it or pushes it. If it goes in motion, it got to be something, a force pushing it. You see, it got to be some force pushing it, right? Anybody else? Okay, good. All right, good. Now this is what happened. When Allah separated himself, this force was already in motion, but it didn't have no direction, no purpose, right? Now the messenger taught us that this atom, right, was rotating in the total darkness of space, right? Right? An atom, right? All right. And we went into it in another class. Why did Allah produce this atom or in-house himself in a protective substance so he can multiply and grow? Why is self-preservation the first law? Why did Allah, this thought, after this one, or this, he manifested himself as the unseen? Then he gathered the 10,000 fractions, which is mental, which is other facts, to make himself be independent from nothing. All these other thoughts, so that he can be independent from that which had no direction, no purpose. Then when he gathered all of these thoughts, did everybody catch that? Then when he gathered all of these thoughts, now he's independent from nothing. Now, how does that work in real life terms? The way that works is, if I have a thought, I'm a nothing, a Negro, I depend on the government to give me things. I don't have no thought to give myself no direction, no purpose, where I can produce anything that bear witness that I have thoughts. You see, I depend on somebody else. Now, after being that way for so long, being a Negro for so long, the want produced a thought. It didn't produce a thought. Remember the language. The condition allowed itself for the thought to manifest itself. But the want said, man, I want to do something. In the thought, I'll be a programmer. That's the energy director. Right? Right, Brother Herndon? The want produce thought, the condition to produce the condition for this thought to manifest itself. Now I have the thought which gives direction and purpose. Allah did that. The whole universe, and Allah did that. Just created himself that way. Now, that's why we think that way. He made it a law. When he did it, that's why we think this way. Then, the next thing Allah did, I'm still not going into what I really came to talk about. For the food, so or fraction to produce the one. Now, did I get one more minute? No. Did I get 3? Thank you. Okay. Now, he had to gather these 10,000 fractions to produce the one. Right? Now, check this out before we go any further. Y'all see what happened? What supersedes us learning this? Right? Now, all we do, stop and just go in and leave business just to leave it right at 5 hours, 39 pounds. You see? What are we to do? Right? Now, another motion came to stop the motion, right? But is the motion that's coming, it's not with Brother Bob, it's not, but is the motion justified in stopping us? Right? What supersedes us learning mathematical things? If it takes us into tomorrow morning, is that right? Right, that's the priority. Right? Okay, now let's get into the flexibility part of it. I don't want nobody to get well, we in his house and you got to respect this and all this shit. If you was in the class, everybody be following me, right? As far as what I'm speaking of in principle, right? I'm talking about creation. Now, let's look at justification. What that means. What does this mean? This sister said, she gave me the fact. She said, Brother Secretary, he gave me a text, fact number 1. He said, Brother Secretary, he gave me the text. The question on the test had 360 degrees, right? I said, what class are you taking? I'm taking physics. That's a class that's right exact, yes. Okay, then I took the test. I used all the formulas correctly, but I used the wrong number. Instead of using 360 degrees, I used 260. Wrote the math, right? Wrote the math. And then once I used all the formulas, and then, but Secretary, he usually gives us leniency if he knows that we know how to do things. But I went to him, that thing was 40 points, and that made me fail the test, and now I can only get a B out of the class. Well, why isn't he being flexible with me? Now, what am I to say? Well, I would be better than the man and say, all right, okay, mathematical man, you get calls all around the country. How you going to math on that? What you going to say to it? That's in accordance to creation, that which is set. Tell the people what's that. Tell them what I did in the beginning. That it was nothing, and what made it nothing, and had no direction on purpose, right? All right. Now, what laws in creation can I show her when we don't have this long debate? Why he did that to her? Because she won't a lot of praise on the man and spank him for giving her making her get a beat. And this is what I see. Once I saw the laws broken, right? That which is set, I got that which is set. That which is set, I got that. So in order to see the wrong, I got to see the right first. Is that right? So I see the creation. I see what's broken, right? So I don't come with no guesses. I don't come with no maybe. I don't come with no ifs. I come with creation, which is the absolute. The absolute creation, the way that Allah thought. And then the creation bear witness to his thought. This is what I say. In the creation, Allah did everything right and exact. He didn't break no law. He did everything right and exact. When you do everything right and exact, when you're right, meaning the facts bear witness that you're right, you can prove it that you are right and justify it in having something or doing something. Nothing can be denied. Nothing. I say, but when you break one law, you broke them all. So now you're at the mercy of another person. Now remember what I said about when you miss one thing, it come back to haunt you. Remember? I said, you miss one thing, guess what? Now we got to formulate another class so we can get all the little fractions that you missed. But then everybody don't want to come to the fraction class. Got it? All right. Now, then, so I'm looking at creation, and I say, now you broke one law, you broke it out. This is how I explain it to you. Now, 1 plus 1 plus 1 equals what? 3. That's the absolute answer. Remember how we proved addition? How it really is addition? And how God created addition? How did he create addition? He had to add up these facts to produce 1. Is that right? He had to add up these thoughts to make himself independent from nothing, or these fractions. He had to gather the fractions, which is another way of saying facts, to produce the 1. Is that right? Now, when Allah did this, when he did this, that made it a law. So that means something that we call addition. You have to gather these things, and this is the formula, the way that you do, right? All right, now let's look at this. I say, now if you say 1 plus 1 equals 3, plus 1 equals 4, plus 1 equals 5, and we go all the way to 100, and you say the answer equals 100, right? Keep going like that, 1 plus 3, you keep adding it up, right? I say, now when we get to the end, no matter what you do, how right you are from the time you broke the math, it's still going to be one thing off. Is that right? I say, now, you're in a physics class where it deals with precisely. I say, now, what if I came to you and asked you, gave you $6 billion and told you to build a bridge from here to there? But you put 260 in instead of 360 and caused me to lose my $6 billion because the bridge is 50 feet from the shoreline and I ain't got no money to make you finish it or do it correctly. Right? I say, now, once you broke the law, then you can check it and see if you were justified in bending it a bit, right? Because she came in, she said, now, Brother Secretary, now, I did this. He usually looks at the thing, and if he know we know how to do it, he usually gives me leniency or gives us leniency in the class. And I think he's doing that because he wants to fail. He got 100 and some people in the class, and he's trying to get rid of half of them, and all I'm going to do is get a B in the class. And I said, wait a minute. Now check this out. Since you broke one law, if you could justify this to him, to say, this is why I broke it, and then you show him facts and say, yes, she's justified in breaking it, then he has to give you the grading back, or give you the A. What? Now, how does that work when we talk about flexibility? When you can justify something, nothing can be denied you. Nothing. What does justify mean? You're proving it. You're showing that it's right. And matter got to submit to what? Right. It got to submit to what's right. It got to submit to the factors that add up to produce the 1. It got to submit to rightness and exactness. Right? Okay. Now, so I say, now, if you're driving down the street, your friend cut her jugular vein, and you're driving down the street, she cut her jugular vein. I mean, you in your house, right? Your friend cut her jugular vein, right? Cut it right here. There's no way to stop the bleeding, and she's going to die in 10 minutes. And I said, you get in the car. You're doing 95 miles an hour because the thing is 15 minutes away from you. So you're doing 95 miles an hour, right? I said, now, when the police stop you, what is he going to do? What is he going to do? Anybody? Right. He gonna check. He gonna know. He want to know why you speeding. Then, if you can justify to him that he said, "Well, the law is 55. You was doing 95, sir. If I don't get her to the hospital in 3 minutes, she's gonna die." He look at the blood. Hey, hold on there, or put her in my car, and he take her to the hospital himself. He's not gonna stand there. Give you no ticket where you broke the law. The law is 55. If you can justify or show it to be right, why you bent the law or why you was flexible in it, it can't be denied you. And then I put it on her. Can you do that? And earlier I asked her, when you went to ask him, did you ask him why? Remember about that why? Did you ask him why he did that? And she said no. See? She broke the law. And why is it important for her to know why things happen? Think about it. Why is it important to know why? The why of it, sir? She would know the idea behind it, and then she can check it and see if it's right. You see? So the only way that you develop this mathematical thinking is not the only way, but the formulas that you use, it got to be in harmony with creation the way that Allah did it. You can't be looking at what, or the physical aspect of it, and then you're going to come up with nothing in the unseen. You see? Because what you're looking at is you can't think, well, how did he do that? Well, how did he do? Well, how? You can't do it. You're still stuck in the mental or the gathering of intelligence. But when you do this, why? What's the idea? The idea is to dispel darkness. He gathered intelligence and produced the camera. The idea is to dispel darkness. Gathered intelligence, produce an oil-burning lantern. The idea is to dispel the darkness. You gather the intelligence and you produce a light bulb. You got three things that change. So if you keep looking at what's happening, you miss what? The why. That's why we don't never look at no person. Always keep your thought on what makes things right and constantly explore that. Then you'll never be hampered by seeing the person. You'll always see the ideas or the principles of the ideas first. It's on 530. You always see the idea behind it. The Allah in it. Then you can see that which is set, these laws. Now you see the law shows you a law. That's a good place to stop the class. You know, we could have went more and more into creation and everything. But the thing is, once you get the formula to actually see how this works, you know, once you get the formula to see how it works, then you got to start applying it to yourself. Why you got to apply it to yourself? Because Allah did it first. If he didn't do it, if Allah didn't do it to himself, he self-created himself. If he didn't do it to himself, he couldn't make nothing stick with anything outside himself. You see? So he gave direction and purpose or order to himself. That's why you can't look at another person and say, well, James, they just don't want me to teach because they just do. You got to look at what you did to cause it. You got to look at the why of things. You got to always check yourself and never look at no other person. You got to see the idea and the principles of the idea being expressed first. Numero uno. That's what matters. So when this matter that was already in motion, when this motion made another motion, this matter wanted to be a resistance because it was already in motion. And it had a natural tendency to go in another way. Yeah? So when this essence of things is thought, this idea, this massive completed idea, that it houses itself in this physical vessel, which is conductors that has conductors of energy for the express purpose to be a conductor for the ideas called the entity or the end thing. And then grows up to be a man, which means he takes control. You got to start with self first. And that's why, because Allah did it. Now we know the law and principles. So next time when we get in there with the specifics, when we go into the specifics with the rest of the brothers, it won't be no friction. When they want to go off into an idea, you're constantly exploring the why of it so you can see the idea with them. And not come in with your own ideas, your own preconceived ideas that's not in harmony with you, that you can't prove based on creation. I'm going to give one more. Show you how creation works. How you got to think mathematically. Everything is creation. Everything. Everything is what Allah did and he made it alone. Everything. You got to think that way. This is what Allah did. Yeah. What a brother told me he was dealing with a sister. He said, this brother told me in Chicago that a brother asked him to come with a sister that has a double portion of negative, right? Y'all know who that is? All right. Now, this sister has a double portion of negative. This sister, in other words, since Allah, the law is that everything, once you leave the 7.5 million mile positive radius of the sun, right, you automatically pick up what? A resistance, right? Something that, a reaction to your motion, right? Now, in order for Father to come and be in harmony with that, he still had to be in the flexibility or the harmony of the law. Yeah? He just couldn't break the law. He had to be flexible. In other words, it has to be justified. So the way that he did it, that these two entities came together. And one entity, which is water, and water is an element that holds what? Negative. Dirt. It holds dirt, and it can't clean itself, can't it? Right? The sun, representing knowledge, or this mass of completed ideas, or this thought, this energy directed, has to shine on water, producing heat. The water submits to the heat or the light that's coming from the sun and raises itself to be in harmony or get closer to the sun. Is that right? Right. But in the process of the water doing this, it leaves the dirt behind. It gathers up in the form of clouds, right? These are laws of physics. It gathers up in the form of clouds, and then it comes back down pure. Is that right? Yes. Now, how does this relate to women? Remember, you got to know the relationship and everything, right? Right? In order to give you power, you got to know how all these laws and principles relate to each other. What do we make the women out of? Water, right? So all the laws and principles that govern water govern who? Women. So the law is that this water cannot get rid of negative. Is that right? But what has to shine on it if it's not now? The light, right? Yeah, right. And the light, you have to talk to the water in a way that causes it to heat up and evaporate. And then it loses all these thoughts of this 6,000 years. And it starts getting in harmony with creation. And then you gather it back up. And then you bring it back down in the form of ideas. And then she be pure or thinking in full harmony with creation. Yeah? All right, now, this was the statement that was made. The statement was made that the woman that had the double portion of negative, she could clean herself. Right? It was like, well, she's not really negative because, she can clean herself. What I heard, the clarity of that which is said, the Lord's book. Can she clean herself? No. What is the law? It got to be clean from the sun, right? Or an outside force, right? Water is an element that seeks its own level, right? Don't water have to be held up by earth? How did we produce ourselves before 6 trillion years ago? Who represent the earth? Man. And how do you hold your woman up? You hold it with your ID. If you want to get it to spiritual, well, physically, you're supposed to support it. Is that right? Right. That's why. If you leave your wife and you don't support, you get back to your wife. Look, you got my idea. I put my idea in you. It gathered the matter that was directed the matter that was in your womb to form what it wanted to form. Then you made me mad, so now I'm defeated. Right? And I'm not going to support you. And then comes the law. The law is, and water got to be supported. Is that right? You got to give definites to water. If you don't, you just flow everywhere. Right? No, brother. That's why we don't look at sisters in package field and all this thing. We don't look sisters in the eyes. Why? Because they cannot refuse the light that's coming from you. You're not. She can't refuse. You see? That's why you don't look at sisters in the eyes. You see? But it had to be based on creation. You can't say, well, you can't look a sister in the eye because that's wrong. But you got to know what's right. What is right if it's not creation? Yeah? Yes, sir. That's how you relate these things to you. That's what we're learning. That's what we're learning. That's what we're learning. Yeah? Yes, sir. All right. Now, how many people ordered the first tape? How many people ordered the first tape? 1, 2, 3. How many people ordered the second tape? 1, 2. Nobody else ordered the second tape. Now, this is the third tape. Yes, sir. Okay, disclaimer. You see? Now, how are you going to retain this when you're supposed to come? Okay, let me share this with you. Why is it that when 7X was a child, his mother had to say, come here, little 7X. Come here, Michael. 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 And then he said, wait a minute, that's me. Why is it that he had to do that? Had to happen? Show me some laws of principles in creation and shit he had. Allah had to do this over and over again. And then once he did it enough time, it was set. And then he can go out in the harsh environment because the law is now set. And take nothing. Take it. Well, your name got Michael. Oh, yeah? I've been calling this all my life. I'm going with exactly what my name is. It's set. You see? But he had to do it. It had to be over again, the law of repetition. Because the law did it. So if you're not listening to the tapes, are you in harmony with the law? No. Because you're not going to get it. Because we was talking, and while I was talking, and we was going over the formulas of how to develop your mathematical thinking, you was thinking on something else. That's why I kept stopping people and saying, it's thus and so and thus and so. Because everybody started thinking about something. Thus and so and thus and so. My brother, not every time. I just like other characters. Not every time. But thus and so, Brother Michael, you look like he mad. Thus and so, brother. So then I said, well, wait a minute. Let me pull the brother back out of his thinking, and let's go on so he can catch up with the class again, because he missed something. Yeah? Yeah. Okay. So, okay, now this tape, okay, we stop it right here. So I'm